It's 1:30. I'd like to call the October 20th, 2014 meeting of the Traffic and Transportation Commission to order. Roll call. Commissioner Witcher.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Littlefield. Commissioner White. Commissioner Hale.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Schuline.
Here.
Commissioner Jenkins.
Here.
Commissioner George. Commissioner Yockel.
Here.
I'd like to have a motion concerning the minutes of the September 15th meeting.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Hale. Do we have a second?
A second approval.
A second from Commissioner Witcher. Any discussion on item 2, minutes? Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes from Commissioner Hale, seconded by Commissioner Witcher. Votes, please. Okay, item is approved. Next item is 2A, the election of officers for next year, which starts at the November meeting. Do I have a motion concerning the chairman?
Motion to continue with the current chairman.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Yonkel to have Commissioner Kula stay as the chairman. And we have a second from Commissioner Schuline. Okay, do we have any other motions for the floor?
Motion to keep Commissioner Witcher as vice chair.
Okay, so we have Yonkel for chairman with Schuline, and then we have a motion from Commissioner Hale for Commissioner Witcher. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Schuline. Do we have any other motions concerning the chairman and the vice chair? Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Yonkel, seconded by Commissioner Schuline, for Commissioner Kula to stay as chairman, and from Commissioner Hale, seconded by Commissioner Schuline, for Commissioner Witcher to stay as the vice chair. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved. We go on to reports of licensed taxi and record services. This will be for the month of July, August, and September. Sir?
Thanks, sir. As stated, this will be the third quarter for the vehicle for hire report, which is, like I said, July, August, and September. For the taxis and shuttles during that quarter, for new driver permits, we had 55 new driver permits, 70 renewals, 58 transfers, and 1 duplicate. As far as vehicle inspections, we had 87 that passed and 21 that failed. As far as enforcement actions and complaints, investigations, and complaints, we had 5 complaints, 7 investigations, and 4 issued citation, and 1 field inspections. I will tell you that during this quarter we had quite a bit of out of those failures, the majority of them were like miscellaneous things, like mainly lights. We had a big problem with tail lights, headlights, etc. We did have problems which we failed vehicles for the horns, tires, and windshield wipers not working properly. In addition to we also had a couple of vehicles that came through with some body damage that were corrected. That passed after being corrected. During this quarter, we did have quite a few complaints and investigations. All of them, or the majority of them, were out at Will Rogers World Airport, and the majority of them were for refusals of services. Recently, I guess within the last few months, the airport contracted with a new company out there that's in charge of the taxi line, and they've been doing a pretty good job of recognizing the refusals and et cetera. Out of those refusals, we've written some of them were considered the short runs, which usually the hotel runs down on Meridian that drivers generally don't like. But we also, one driver in significance had a couple of refusals himself and a couple actually of overcharging people. Since then, that driver has been cited for those, and actually his permit has been revoked because of those complaints. We do have 2 other refusals that we're in the process of right now contacting the drivers to have them come back after we finish the investigation and citing those drivers also. So hopefully between the new security out there at the airport and the citations, we'll have less refusals from coming days. As far as limousines are concerned, we do have, as far as driver's permits, oops, get the right one. We do have 10 new driver permits, 14 renewals, and 1 transfer. Out of the vehicle inspections, we had 41 that were inspected and 5 that failed. In addition, kind of like the taxis, the 5 that failed was minor stuff. We only had 1 that had a little minor damage that was corrected and was fixed. The rest were lights, and 1 had emergency brakes that failed. Out of limousines, we didn't have any complaints or investigations or all that came out of those. For the carriages, the horse carriages, we did have 3 new driver permits and 2 renewals, and one duplicate. And we had 1 carriage that was inspected during that time. During this quarter, we did have 1 complaint. I kind of bring this to, especially to your attention as the commission, mainly because it involves the carriages down in Bricktown. We're starting to get more and more carriages that are coming to our area and wanting to be approved, so it's kind of getting congested as far as the amount of spaces that are allowed down there for the carriages, and that's causing a little bit of conflict between all the different companies down there, especially on the first come, first served basis, in which we have complaints of one company will pull out to do their tour. In the meanwhile, another company will move into its place as their second company down there. So they may start out with only one right behind each other, and then as soon as one pulls out, then one of the other companies now has 2 of them and blocks them from coming in, so they pretty much don't have any place to park once they move back around. This has started some arguments and kind of, for lack of better words, just kind of a little bitty kid stuff, which they start arguing about and started like taking photos of each other just to kind of start arguments with each other. I don't know. So far, it hasn't escalated into anything physical as far as this quarter. We did have a police report that was made last quarter in which one company was accused of slapping the other, but no charges were actually formally filed. So we're trying to figure out some ideas between our department and the carriage companies as a resolution to try and get them to get all along each other. But the main problem that they're all stating is too many companies, not enough spaces. And lastly, we have our pedicabs, in which pedicabs we have 5 new driver permits, 2 renewals, 1 transfer, and we did have only one pedicab that was inspected, and it passed. We don't have any complaints or investigations going on at the time for them. Any questions?
Okay, does anybody have anything? Sergeant?
On the carriages, is there anything that says how many carriages can be on duty at the same time from a given company? Or is it just however many you have, they can all be on duty as they see fit? I mean, is there anything around that could help?
Right now, there is no limit to how many one company can have down in Bricktown, which poses part of the problem. You know, some companies, it's not a big problem because they only have 1 carriage, but we do have a couple that have 5 or 6 or 7 carriages, and depending on the event that goes on, they'll try to bring as many carriages as possible. And that is one of the ideas that we're trying to look at is, or we're tossing around between us and also animal control and getting with a legal counsel as far as maybe any ideas that we could pose, maybe as far as any limitations, anything we can do legally.
Okay, Anybody else have any questions or comments? Well, so first of all, you think that there's an increase in carriage use, that all these carriages are now coming into the area, and that they are being used, so it's a good thing that's
Correct.
going on.
Correct.
So the problem is the small space we have right on that road, that's the only carriage spot, correct?
We have,
There.
in the Bricktown area, we have a couple outside in the downtown area, but they're quote-unquote not the money makers.
Right. But just that one right at that downtown corner,
We have, where they're located right now, we have one in the 100 block East Sheridan, which is right in front of the Spaghetti Warehouse. Parking there, in addition to the unit block of right across on East Sheridan, like in front of, I believe now it's called Hudson's.
Right.
We hit Hudson's. And then we also have in front of the ballpark.
so in front of the ballpark main entrance, which is also Mickey Mantle's, right?
Yes.
You're saying right on that road, there is some carriage spots there?
There is carrot spots there. I know the commission a while back tried to run I think they went to taxi parking, but
Well, see, that's what I was going to bring up, was just down the road towards, going south, I believe it is, there's a taxi stand down there on the right, isn't there? Is there a taxi stand down there on the right?
on which street?
Well, right by Mickey Mantle's, if you keep
Yes.
going south, I think we had like 4 spots there.
Yeah.
Do you know if that's used?
Yes, they do, all the taxi cabs.
Okay, so that is a used spot, okay.
They all are definitely used. Some of the problems that we run into is like, unlike the taxi cabs, taxis pick up someone and they may take them to, of course, obviously to a different part of town.
Right.
So the problem with the carriages is that they mainly do their tours in Bricktown, so they're circling back around. So the first come, first served basis is part of the problem, not entirely whatsoever, but definitely part of the problem.
So right now, there's 3 spots downtown Bricktown, you're saying, by Mickey Mantle's, the ballpark, and then,
And then there's another one in Oklahoma by the U-Haul. The biggest ones they tend to flock to is the one by Spaghetti Warehouse and the one by the ballpark, because those are the most visible and the most high traffic.
and then have they brought up saying they want some more room? Is there more room available without getting into the...
They have, the industry has suggested they wanted more room. We kind of drove around there trying to see some possible available. It's really very limited, I'm thinking we may have some conflict with citizens who come down to visit, because a lot of the parking that could be possible are metered spaces.
Right.
In which vehicles to park at. So if we start taking those away, then we start looking at citizens having less places to park in.
Really, there's no available that's just curb parking that's not being used that you could expand to? There's nothing like that? You'd have to take meter?
No, not at this time.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, wish you luck, and just let us know what you all come up with.
Yeah. We'll try.
Go do great things. All right, anything else? All right, thank you for your effort.
Thank you.
Turn off the timer. Okay, moving on to item 4, the consent docket. Do we have a motion? Well, do we have anybody here to speak against an item on the consent docket? Okay, do we have a motion concerning the consent docket?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion from Commissioner Hale to approve the consent docket. We have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Jenkins. Do we have any discussion on the consent docket? Okay. We have a motion to approve the consent docket, item 4, from Commissioner Hale, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. Votes, please. Okay, item is approved. We go on now to item 5, items for individual consideration. 5A, Black Tie Valet Parking Services, Inc., doing business as BTV Transportation, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73101, to consider an application for a certificate of public convenience and necessity from Black Tie Valet Parking Services, Inc., doing business as BTV Transportation, to operate 50 vehicles in limousine service. We have somebody here to speak on item 5A. Sir, if you'd like to go ahead and come on up, can I have your name, your address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
My name is Jay Shaw, and I'm the president of Black Tie Valet, and my address is 305 Northwest 5th, Unit 2314, Oklahoma City, 73101. And thank you for having us out and considering us for this public convenience and need necessity. Is there anything I can answer, or do you all have any questions?
That's fine. Thank you very much.
Okay.
You can go ahead and have a seat. Okay, do we have staff input, please?
You've got staff comments before you. We're recommending approval of the application as submitted.
Okay, we have a need for a motion concerning item 5A.
I'll move approval.
We have a motion from Commissioner Witcher to approve item 5A. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Yonkel. Do you have any talk on item 5A? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5A from Commissioner Witcher, seconded by Commissioner Yonkel. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved. Read down. Okay, we move on now to, thank you very much. We move on now to item 5B, Nash Construction, doing business as Nash Transportation, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73129. To consider an application for a certificate of public convenience and necessity from Nash Construction Company, doing business as Nash Transportation, to operate one non-emergency medical transport vehicle and van service. Do we have anybody here to speak on item 5B? Okay. Do we have staff input for item 5B? Oh, we do have somebody? Okay. So if I could have you fill out one of these when you're done, please, from right up here. And can I have your name, your address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
William K. Nash, 700 South Irving, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73129. Have standard application that we submitted for. There was just a typo on the agenda, but
Which he caught and I read
that's all I have.
Okay. If you could just fill that out.
Sure.
Okay. And we have staff input.
We've got a complete application before us, and staff's recommending approval of the application as submitted.
Okay. Do we have a motion concerning item 5B?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve from Commissioner Hale. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jenkins. Do we have any discussion on this item? Okay. We have a motion to approve item 5B from Commissioner
Chairman,
Hale. Oh,
I
yes, you
just
were.
have a
I'm sorry.
question out of curiosity for Mr. Nash when he's finished there.
Yes, sir.
So just out of curiosity, it doesn't affect the application or anything, but is this just a different business venture, or is it something that's associated, that'll be used by your construction firm?
Different business
Okay.
venture,
Thank you.
completely different.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We have any other talk on item 5B? Okay. We have a motion to approve item 5B from Commissioner Hale, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. Can I have your votes, please? Okay. Item is approved. Item 5C, Quasi Enterprises and Imports, LLC, doing business as OKC Green Taxi, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73132. Consider an application to amend the Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity issued to Quasi Norum Islam, Quasi Enterprises and Imports, LLC, doing business as OKC Green Taxi, to increase their fleet size from 75 to 150 vehicles in taxi service. Do you have anybody here to speak on item 5C? Okay, can we have staff input, please?
We're recommending approval of the item as submitted.
Okay, do you have a motion concerning item 5C?
Move to approve.
We have a motion from Commissioner Jenkins to approve item 5C. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Witcher. Do we have any discussion on item 5C? Okay, we have a motion to approve 5C from Commissioner Jenkins, seconded by Commissioner Witcher. Can I have your votes, please? Item is approved. Item 5D, Roger Andrews, GEF Investments, LLC, doing business as Checker Cab, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73103. Consider an application to amend the Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity issued to GEF Investments, LLC, doing business as Checker Cab, to increase their fleet size from 35 to 50 vehicles in taxi service. We have anybody here to speak on item 5D? Okay, sir? And And you already got a form filled out. If I could have your name, your address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Roger Andrews, GEF Investments LLC, DBA Checker Cab Company. Yes, we're just needing an increase in permits. We're looking to make some changes in our organization, and we want to just add some checker cabs on.
All right. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
We have staff input.
We're recommending approval of the item as presented.
We have a motion concerning item 5D.
I'll move approval.
We have a motion to approve 5D from Commissioner Witcher. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hale. Do we have any discussion on 5D? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5D from Commissioner Witcher, seconded by Commissioner Hale. Can I have your votes, please? Item is approved. 5E, Majesty Health Services, LLC, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73142, to consider an application for a certificate of public convenience and necessity from Majesty Health Services, LLC, to operate 5 non-emergency medical transport vehicles in van service. Do we have anybody here to speak on item 5E? Okay, if I could have your name, your address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
My name is Tunde Rowaye, and the office is located on 6604 Northwest 134th Street, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73142. And I do represent Majesty Health Services. We want to operate non-emergency medical transportation to carry passengers on wheelchairs to the hospital, to stores, to the mall, to wherever they want to go, and on wheelchairs and stretchers.
All right, thank you very much. Can I have you fill out one of the forms, please? Okay, can we have staff input, please?
We're recommending approval of the application as presented.
Okay, do we have a motion concerning 5E?
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Yonkel. And do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jenkins. Do we have any discussion on 5E? We have a motion to approve item 5E from Commissioner Yonkel, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved. 5F. Alma Tresca Williams, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73162, to consider a request for the establishment of an all-way stop control at the intersection of Westlake Drive and West Captain's Drive. Ma'am? And name, address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Alma Tresca Williams, 6400 West Captain's Drive, Oklahoma City, 73162. Now, this is a residential area with high traffic, very limited visibility, and actually the homes in the neighborhood do not have curbs to prevent anyone from going over the limit into running into the properties. Kids actually are dropped off at very close to this area, and nobody stops. That's pretty much our concern.
All right, anybody else for item 5F? Okay, staff input, please.
Okay, well, you've got all our comments before you. We reviewed the intersection with respect to the city's criteria for using all-way stop control at a neighborhood intersection, and we also evaluated the intersection with respect to the manual and uniform traffic control devices. The traffic volumes, collision history, and the speed information that we collected, there are no indicators pointing to stop control being required at this particular intersection, so we just didn't have cause to recommend it for your approval. So action on this matter will be at the discretion of the commission.
Thank you very much. Do we have a motion concerning item 5F?
I make a motion to approve it.
Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5F from Commissioner Yonkel.
I'll second.
And we have a second from Commissioner Schuline. Do we have any discussion on 5F? Ma'am? Go ahead, ma'am.
Just a question for the applicant. Ski Island has been a classic neighborhood in the city. Are you seeing changes occur? Yes. Or what's happening where this is just coming up?
People are cutting through trying to avoid the intersection of MacArthur and Hafner, and there's one way into the neighborhood and one way out. And it's just, we cannot be outside without having to watch vehicles coming. They take it so fast, it's very limited visibility due to the hilly terrain, and people just do not slow down. We have everybody in the neighborhood, at least the homes affected by it, everybody is requesting it because we're trying to avoid an accident or something serious from happening.
If approved, could there be assistance, patrol, something? And just because there's a stop sign doesn't mean people stop.
At least, hopefully, they will slow down. That's,
Hopefully.
yes.
So I've just observed in a personal area near my home, slowing down doesn't even always occur. So I'm sensitive to the need here, and with all the folks that are wanting it, signing a petition, I'm just hoping to help nurture some success for the stop signs if the vote is in favor.
I'd just comment on, just because you brought up speeding, apparently from the data that was collected, there's not a speeding problem. The 85th percentile speed is 25 miles an hour, so at least 85 out of 100 people are going 25 or less at the intersection, according to the data that was collected. So you've got...
I look at it from my personal point of view that 25% is too much, putting my kids at risk if they're playing on the yard. It's right in front of my yard where that happens. I would not like to see a stop sign in there as far as visually, but I think it's a necessity because there are no curves to prevent anybody from going over on the yards.
We get some staff input. I believe last month we approved a stop sign within a residential area, 100% request of the neighbors. But we've got some data, and thank you for taking the time to provide that data. But if I read that email correct, then we have some folks that wanted to come off of their request for that sign, that once it was put up, it had some negative impact in the neighborhood.
The only item, you're talking about the stop signs that were approved on Northwest 197th Street at Bridle Drive and Lariat Drive. And the only request we had, or citizen feedback we got relative to removing one of the signs, was in that it impacted parking, because you can't park within an intersection, and you can't park within like 30 feet of a traffic control device like a stop sign. And one of the particular stop signs on 197th Street was impacting where one of the residents' daughters was able to park on the street. But that issue's been resolved. I mean, they've just learned to adapt to it. But I don't have the speed studies here with me right now, but I can tell you that, as far as strict obeyance of the stop signs, the experience hasn't necessarily been all that great yet on that street, so we're just continuing to collect information on it. We do have some video information we can present it at another time if you'd be interested in seeing it. But like I said, I can present that at a later date.
You mentioned about children being dropped off at the school bus, and I'm just wondering if the driver takes any action, because legally, when he or she puts the sign out, all traffic should stop. So I'm wondering if there should be some monitoring by the police department during the school hours.
The school bus is kind of on the turn. There are so many curbs going through the neighborhood. There are no speed signs anywhere in the neighborhood, no stop signs. So just everybody kind of cuts through and just just drives very fast.
Okay, ma'am.
Part of the concern I hear from you is people, because there are not curbs, they're coming into the yard possibly
Yes.
on those curbs. Is there a bigger concern in the remedies available? Stop signs are sort of at the top of the list because it feels like it's the right solution. But if the issue is them coming into the yard or out of the road, is the stop sign the right solution? Or has a neighborhood considered curbing those areas? I mean, the neighborhood would absorb those costs, but I'm just evaluating for the remedy, for your issue as the right remedy on the table.
I'm not sure if the curbs are a possible solution.
Yeah, I'm not either. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I'm not sure.
I don't necessarily think that applying curbing on a road is going to be, would address this particular condition. Because, when we were out there taking pictures, you can see that the yards aren't rutted. So, people are staying on the roads. They're not going off-road necessarily. So, you can look at some of the, there's a case coming up later on in the agenda where you've got a mid-block pedestrian crossing being asked, and that's on a street that's totally curbed, and in comparison, the speed, basically driver behavior on that road is basically to drive it definitely not in the manner you would a residential street. The prevailing speeds are way above the posted limits, and that road does have curb.
Okay, so any other talk on item 5F? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5F from Commissioner Yonkel, seconded by Commissioner Schuline. Can I have your votes, please? Item is a push. Council? Not approved. Item is not approved. Item 5G, Timothy W. Johnson, P.E., President, Johnson & Associates, Inc., Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73104, to consider a request to, 1, establish 90-degree angle parking within an on-street parking area on the north side of Northwest 67th Street from approximately 71 feet east to 326 feet east of the east curb line of North Clawson Boulevard, and 2, establish 90-degree angle parking within an on-street parking area on the south side of Northwest 68th Street from approximately 65 feet east to 425 feet east of the east curb line of North Clawson Boulevard. Sir, name, address, and up to 5 minutes.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Tim Johnson with Johnson Associates, 1 East Sheridan, Suite 200, Oklahoma City, 73104. Appreciate the opportunity to be here representing our client. Along with me is Caleb Morgan from my office, our traffic engineer. This is somewhat of a unique case, and I want to publicly appreciate the staff for really taking a hard look at this and helping us work through some issues on something that's a little unique to the standard code. We did look at this for angled parking initially and felt like the client felt like 90-degree parking would be better to serve the proposed improvements here, which is a privately owned fitness center for American Energy Partners, and this is a daycare center for American Energy Partners, so specific users in both cases. The angle parking we felt like would drive more people to circulate through the residential tract that is east of here to make a turn through on Chartel, and so that's why we opted to stick with the 90-degree proposal, worked with the staff on the uniqueness of that, and feel like the solution that the staffs help us come up with and in their recommendations that we agree with, that we've been able to tackle those issues. One point that's not specifically addressed with any finality in the staff report is the question of handicap accessibility and handicap spaces on the on-street parking portion. These on-street spaces are being provided not necessarily for the residents around here, although we know they can't be identified specifically for us, but we anticipate that the majority of, if not all of them, will be used for these facilities. That said, the total number of accessible spaces are being provided for on the limited parking on the site. It covers all the new spaces on the street as well as the spaces in the lot to meet the accessible requirement. So 2 reasons why we would try to stay away from accessible spaces on the streets is, 1 is the streets are not designed or set up for accessible routes. And 2, in review of the U.S. Access Board's understanding of on-street parking, they don't particularly recommend handicap spaces in areas that are for specific uses. In a case that I think Mr. Child's staff report had mentioned that the city recently added handicap spaces along Broadway. And the purpose of that is you have a whole venue of retailers and office and commercial users along there, so it's a collective use. This is a singular use. So with that, we would request that the application be approved as submitted and that no additional handicap spaces be required on the on-street parking. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you very much. Staff input?
Okay, you've got all our staff comments before you. On relative to the matter of handicap accessible parking spaces, it's correct in as much as right now there is not a standing requirement for the number of spaces to be provided as part of on-street parking on public roadways. The requirement does apply for privately owned and operated parking lots, basically what we describe as being off-street parking. So that information was just more there for your, just for your enlightenment, just so that you were aware that there wasn't an absolute requirement for it, but it's also giving you a little bit of background because when we'd done when you'd heard the request for angled parking on Broadway Avenue, that was all approved, but there weren't any handicap spaces incorporated into it. It was subject to citizen comment that was received through our ADA committee that basically came back to the commission to establish some on-street spaces set aside for the physically disabled. So we're recommending approval of the application subject to the staff comments, staff recommendations listed on page 5 of the staff report, which is calling for a minimum of 22-foot stall lengths, which the applicant has got illustrated on his drawings, sidewalks which are required adjacent to the spaces, and that the spaces be constructed within public right-of-way, which would give allow the city the ability to regulate their use in the event that at some point in time there's a request that comes in for like time-limited parking or something along that line. So actions at the discretion of the commission.
Okay, do we have a motion concerning item 5G?
I'll move approval subject to the staff recommendations.
We have a motion to approve item 5G with staff recommendations from Commissioner Witcher. Do we have a second?
A second.
A second from Commissioner Yonkel. Do we have any discussion on item 5G?
Tim, is there, well, Energy Partners, do they have the property on the south of 67th Street? I guess what I'm...
No, they do not.
Okay.
That is a warehouse use that has ample parking in their property, although we understand that they may, during the working hour, use the off-street parking or the on-street parking as well.
And there's no intention of having any restrictions on getting to your on-site, the private parking where the handicap...
There are no restrictions. No, it's all accessible.
Okay.
All right, any other discussion on 5G? We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Witcher with the items, the staff comments, seconded by Commissioner Yonkel. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved. 5H, Peter Burke, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73170, to consider a request for the establishment of an all-way stop control at the intersection of Aragon Lane and Southwest 173rd Street. Have anybody speak on that? Sir, if I can have your name, your address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
My name is Peter Burke. I live at 400 Southwest 173rd, Oklahoma City. Requested a four-way stop sign at the intersection. There is a yield signs on the east and west side of Aragon on 173rd. There's a lot of there's a school bus stop too that's there, elementary and junior high. I'm just looking out for the safety of the kids getting in and off the bus. There has been some close calls on Aragon going north and south. And there is a blind spot on 174th at the curb. When people are coming around, like off of Santa Fe, they go down 174th. They come around that curve going up onto their Aragon. It appears they're speeding, but I don't have a radar gun. There has been a gentleman out there taking radar. He was doing it between the hours of 12 and 2. really high traffic volume at that time. Usually high traffic in the mornings and in the afternoon, and of course weekends. And I'd just like to see if something could be done, just for the safety.
All right, very good, sir. Thank you. Staff input?
All right, you've got all our comments before you. When we reviewed this intersection with respect to the city's criteria for always stop control and the same criteria in the manual and uniform traffic control devices, we found the intersection does not meet any of the city's or the MUTCD criteria for considering this particular type of traffic control. Actually, the yield signs that are in place would be appropriate to retain at this particular intersection. There's not a collision history that indicates any issues. We did conduct a laser speed study, and we found that the 85th percentile speed was 24, and the highest speed that we were able to record was 27 in the observation time we were there. And we were out for about an hour and a half, and at the time it was relatively light traffic conditions, so we got 31 readings. So action is 16 readings. So action on this item will be at the discretion of the commission.
Okay, do we have a motion concerning item 5H?
Make a motion to approve it.
We have a motion from Commissioner Yonkel to approve item 5H. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Schuline. Do we have any discussion on 5H?
Just a remark, when 100% of the folks around these areas are in favor of it, I feel like the science is important, but listening to them is important also. I just want to say that.
Okay. Any other discussion? Sir?
To echo Mr. Yockel's concern. It is a neighborhood issue. I think they know it better than we do, and we didn't collect enough data to really, with 16 hits for an hour and a half during a lunch hour, I don't think it's enough data to support a decision. But still, I'm sensitive to the neighborhood too. I think we have 100% support, and I think I agree with them.
Okay. Any other talk on item 5H?
I'll just, not to argue against that, but the logic and the science and what we've been taught by the traffic engineering staff is that stop signs are not intended to be speed control, and they don't work as speed control. I can relay till I'm blue in the face in my own neighborhood where every 5 years or so a new stop sign is added because people want to control speeding, and if it worked, we would have only needed the first stop sign.
Well, and it goes back to why we're having our the effort on traffic calming. The older neighborhoods that are established are now getting overwhelmed by either growth or they become through streets, and that increases the traffic volume and the speed, et cetera. And of course, everybody's very busy now, and they don't have time to go slow. So there's a double-edged sword that we're working on here is established neighborhoods that have grown past how they were designed to be and are now through streets, et cetera. What do we do to help calm the speed in those areas? And then, of course, any new developments, and that's working great on the planning side to try to get curves in the road, landscaping, et cetera, to try to calm in the new development. So we're still working hard as the Traffic Commission through the sub-work on what to do for established neighborhoods on how to go slow. And until we get there, this might be the only solution that we have. So, some very good points. Yes, ma'am.
I appreciate that point of view. It's not an easy thing, and it's a conflict at every meeting. I think you have to kind of step out and try something when the tricks in the bag are so limited right now. You got to pull out what you got. And so I appreciate where you're coming from, but I hear you. And the debate is healthy. This is how we get to some better place at some other point. So I think productive conflict is very beneficial, Commissioner.
Yes, sir.
I'm very concerned about the safety of our public. I also have a problem if you're going to have people that break the law. If the law says 25 miles an hour and they're willing to break that, why is the stop sign going to be any different? You know, we're dealing with people that are willing to not observe the traffic signs that are currently there. I'm not sure which is worse, someone going too fast in that neighborhood or someone expecting them to stop and blasting through it, whether it be a vehicle or a child. So, I mean, I agree that it is a dilemma, but I think historically we found that it's not a very good solution. In fact, sometimes I think it's more of a problem.
Okay, any other talk on item 5H? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5H from Commissioner Yonkel, seconded by Commissioner Schuline. Can I have your votes, please? It's a push. Item is not approved. Item 5I, Terry Inman, Development Director, Crossings Christian School, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma 73134, to consider a request for a mid-block pedestrian crossing on Parkway Center Avenue, approximately 360 feet to the north of the intersection Parkway Center Avenue and Wireless Way. Sir, if I could have your name, your address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Yeah, Brandon Kuhn from Hewitt-Zollers representing the applicant. We're at 2832 West Wilshire, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma 73116. Originally, we had requested two crossings, one up here towards the north and one a little bit further on the south. The staff did not support us on this one on the south, so we removed that one, but would like to discuss, if possible, this middle school here is currently under construction, and these buildings will be under construction in the next couple years. Right now, all of the kids are coming out of this upper school building, crossing the street here to get to these athletic fields. But as the middle school goes in, they're going to come down here and cross. So I believe that they recommended approval for this crossing, but if we could discuss a second crossing here, we would like to do that.
Okay, so you're showing us that you do want that, the one that we talked about here, or you don't want that one?
We do want this one that the staff has approved.
Okay.
And the one down here that was further south that was not supported by the staff, we're not asking for that one. What we are asking for is if we could talk about a second crossing that would be down here at this intersection for the future construction.
So that would be an add-on
Correct.
item that you want in the future. So of course, you can work that with the staff.
Okay.
Okay, so as far as on the map, could you show one more time?
Yeah.
The item that's up for consideration, the 360 feet to the north of the intersection, where is that at right now?
It's right here. And here's the upper school building, and the football field is here, and the baseball field is just south of that.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, do you have anything else, sir?
No.
Okay, staff input, please.
Okay, well, with respect to what the commission's able to do this afternoon, you can act on those items which are in fact on your agenda. That which is not on your agenda is not really subject for discussion or any action on the part of the commission. So, you know, as he mentioned, there were actually, when this original application came in, it did have two locations. However, one was a mid-block crossing that occurred between a parking lot of a private business, not affiliated with Crossing School and the sports facilities, and that was there was no correlation between the two to have that one presented. So what we've got is just a single application at the location that's a few hundred feet to the north of the intersection of Wireless Way. One thing I would like to point out to you is we did run a speed study out on this particular street, and unlike the neighborhood applications you saw, even though Parkway Center Drive has got a posted speed limit of 25, we had an 85th percentile speed recorded of 36, a 95th percentile of 39, and the highest speed we had recorded was 43. And this would all be on a 25 mile an hour section of roadway, which also falls within the limits of a school zone. But, this particular crossing where they've got it proposed, the only caveat, if the commission was going to act to approve it, was the city can come through and we can put down the pavement markings and erect the crossing signs, but it would be subject to the applicant building the wheelchair ramps and any sidewalk connections needed to make the physical features of the crossing ADA accessible.
And sir, is that in the notes already for them to do that?
Yes, it's in here. It basically read on the staff recommendations, as if approved, staff recommends approval subject to the applicant bearing the responsibility for the preparation of the construction documents and the actual construction of the ADA compliant ramps and sidewalks at the crossing. Following that, the city would put up the crosswalk markings and the warning signs.
Okay. So sir, is that something that you guys are going to do?
Yes, sir, that's understood. And the school also had requested, and they would pay for it, are these flashing signs, just to draw a little bit of attention. I think Mr. Chide mentioned the speed limit up there was very fast, and so just trying to get something to call attention to the fact that we've got students up there, and they were offering to pay for that.
Right, and the school can pursue that, but they can pursue that independently. The very last, under next actions, which is the tail end of the text portion of the staff report, we note that Crossing Christian School may, at their option, file a revocable permit for the installation of privately constructed and maintained pedestrian-activated warning flashers at the mid-block crossing. Because it's not the city's policy, and matter of fact, it's not even a code requirement that we post school zones with any sort of flashing warning signals when the speed limit on the street is basically 25 miles an hour or less. We only put in warning signals or flashers when it's posted higher than 25. So this would be a discretionary item that the school could pursue a revocable permit for.
Okay.
Okay, and your final recommendation? Comment?
Actions at the discretion of the commission.
All right. So do we have a motion concerning item 5I?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve from Commissioner Yonkel.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Schuline. Any discussion on this?
Chair, I'd like to recuse myself from this because of the business relationship between my employer and Crossing School.
Okay, let the record show that Commissioner Witcher is not involved in item 5I. We still have a 5-person quorum, so we're good. Okay, ma'am, item 5I, comments?
May I vote, although I attend Crossings Church?
Council?
I don't have anybody in attendance at the school, but I do attend Crossings. Was this a forgiveness or permission thing? I should have asked forgiveness. That's completely kidding.
Do you have financial interest, or it's just your attendance at the church?
We go to church there. We just go to church there. We don't go to school there. My little one doesn't go to school there. We just go to church.
Okay, that, then it would still be a 5-person quorum as long as you recuse yourself. So it'd be okay.
So she's good to go. Okay. Okay, so any other discussion on item 5I? Do we need to make sure that the motion includes staff comments about them doing the ADA work and all that? Okay. So let me go back to the motioner. As 5I adds with staff comment.
Yes, the motion is to approve it with the staff comments and ADA compliance follow-up.
And a second? Are we good with the second? Okay. So, any other discussion on item 5I? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5I from Commissioner Yonkel, seconded by Commissioner Schuline, to include staff comments. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved.
Thank you.
Okay, we go now to item 6, comments from citizens. Anybody wishing to speak? Okay, item 7, reports and other items from traffic commissioners, etc. Let's go down the line. Commissioner Witcher, who's back now. Thank you very much. Let the record show he's back to work.
Nothing to report, sir.
Okay. Commissioner Hale.
Nothing to report, sir.
Commissioner Schuline.
Nothing, sir. Thank you.
Commissioner Jenkins.
I would just like to say to Stuart, I appreciated the changes you made in the material. It helped because many times I go, okay, now what are they really recommending? And this helped me to kind of separate. The other thing, we were talking in regards to residential speed, etc. I didn't say anything because I live on the corner. I live in an old neighborhood, and I have been accused of speeding, and I never go over 25 miles an hour. And, sometimes it's the conception of the person who's observing the speed. And we've had people in our neighborhood request stop signs, etc. And I think we had an accident maybe 7 or 8 years ago. And people come and they can see down the street, and if there's no car coming, they just go on across. But I think sometimes we might overreact to speed, and it's not really going that fast. Okay, that's my soapbox.
Well, yeah, and the things that I've noticed and when I've gone out when the people have said speeding, if it's a normal housing road and there's no parking anywhere and there's enough room, 25 looks okay. But you throw one car in there on one side, never mind if you throw a car on the other side, and now one car has to weave a little bit, then 25 isn't okay, even though it is the speed limit. And 25 would look very fast with cars on both sides of a normal residential street compared to just a residential street. Yes, and you're right, it does look different. Okay, anything else, Commissioner Yonkel? Don't want to forget you this month. Okay, sir? Okay, counsel? Okay, Mr. Chai?
Okay, we provided a brief report at the end of your agenda. It addresses the physical requirements that the city has for its bus drivers, because I believe that's an item that was inquired about at the last meeting, so we've provided that information for you. Thank you on your comments about, us putting in information right towards the end of the items where we have like a summary of staff recommendations, because at times it is kind of difficult to remember and pick through all the things that were discussed, and so we decided to kind of consolidate those things right there, right ahead of where you'd be in your agenda when you're looking at, formulating a motion on these things. The one thing that I will bring up is that we decided to go out and start doing laser spot speed studies in some of these locations, because, you'll get a lot of citizen feedback with, a lot of concerns expressed over speeding and, all sorts of, undesirable driving behaviors in neighborhoods. But I just thought it was interesting this time around that the application for the mid-block crossing that was filed by Crossings Christian School had, even though they were, wanting to move kids across the street, had absolutely no references to speed being an issue at that location, whereas they had a very real issue. I mean, when you've got a 85th percentile that's 11 miles over the limit, obviously that something's just not fitting well in that particular location. But the other locations where we went and gathered data, they were such lightly traveled streets, it was hard to stay out long enough. I mean, a spot speed study ideally would like to have like 100 data points or at least coverage for an hour. We were out there longer than an hour and a half just trying to collect information so we'd have reasonable stuff to present. We'll try to provide as more meaningful information to help you assess conditions, because it's, like I said, you'll get a lot of people that are very concerned over their perception of speed in their neighborhood, and we just want to be able to provide the best information that we can in order to help you, kind of come to terms with the decisions that you're being asked to make. But I have nothing else.
Out of curiosity, Stuart, on the crossings application, what time were you doing the spot speed study? And then where is that traffic coming from and going to?
Okay, on the crossing study, there's a summary table in it, and that was done on the 14th of this month, and it went from 2:38 to 3:19 p.m. So it would have been about school pickup time, thereabouts, yes.
And do you suspect that most of those people going fast were parents going to pick up their kids or people coming from AT&T?
Well, I wasn't out there, I wasn't the one conducting the study, so I wasn't really, the staff member who did that isn't here to ask that question to, but if he was here, he might be able to speak to whether or not he was seeing, children present in the vehicle that may give you an indication that it may have been school-related traffic. Kind of hard to say.
There is so much business around there, and with the work, I don't know if 150th is complete at that point or not. There's a lot of folks coming through those back roads, like from 150th, then over to Memorial. There's a lot of unrelated folks on the roads to Crossing School.
Any other comments? Sir?
I move we adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn from Commissioner Schuline. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Do we have a vote? And everybody go home.